This Sunday on Halloween, a community will gather in Prospect Heights to decide. Saturday is Halloween. Lost today. They're going to dedicate a mural and pay homage to someone's life. It's the work of a group of AIDS activists and 16 renowned street artists. It's called What's Your Sign because they've based it on the signs of the Zodiac.
The life they're celebrating is that of Allison Gertz, and the organization is called Love Heals, the Allison Gertz Foundation for AIDS Education. The mission is all about resources and support within their local communities, and the hope is that the mural will foster dialogue and engagement around a disease that affects the lives of young people nationwide. Before we meet our guest, let's take a look at this short video clip.
Well, that's the artist as art there in the trailer that we just saw. But right now, we're very pleased to welcome the executive director of Love Heals, Ms. Deborah Levin.
Welcome. Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome to you. Thank you for joining us. Deborah, tell us a little bit about what we just saw.
Well, that was actually a short done by Jeff Beeler, who is one of the curators for What's Your Sign, the Mural Project, and it's all about raising awareness for the need for HIV prevention with youth. And so we are mirroring art to help raise that conversation and really sort of let folks know that even 30+ years into this epidemic, that HIV is still alive and it is truly impacting the young people of New York City. And so we have 13 murals with 16 artists.
That's a lot. So you mentioned that 30-year number, like we're 30 years into this thing, and the fight has sort of changed. Like before with activism and awareness, there was a lot of in-your-face things and some scary stuff that happened, and now we've like made more medical advances, and people, especially young people who didn't grow up in that time, relate differently. So how have you switched up the message so it impacts them and they get it?
Well, we're actually 30+ years into this epidemic. And so the messaging has changed, although the one thing that has stayed true is that HIV is still 100% preventable if we are doing and educating young people, middle-aged people, seasoned individuals about how to stay safe. And one of the key messaging is to definitely get tested so you can know your status, and if positive, to get into care, and if negative, to learn how to stay negative.
What are the challenges now in educating youth versus how it was 30+ years ago?
I would say to you that now we have social media, we've got other venues by which young people can access information. But what we do know is that conversation and being honest and letting young people know that it's safe to ask questions about sex, sexuality, just about prevention across the board is not something that people want to fund these days. And we know that it is the way in which young people learn. So what Love Heals does is we do presentations in schools and in communities that have some of the highest rates of infection in New York City and in the tri-state area. And by doing so, we educate them about what HIV is, sexually transmitted infections, how to stay safe. We talk about things like same-gender loving relationships. We address stigma. And that's really what this project does in a very special way. It brings sort of light and art, and it raises conversations where we can really begin to talk about the things that folks don't really want to talk about.
That open dialogue. So I'm going to ask you to tell us about Allison Gertz.
So Allison, who this organization is based on her work and her life, was a socialite and grew up on the Upper East Side. And at 16 in the mid-'80s, she had her first sexual encounter, and unbeknownst to her, became infected with the virus. Unfortunately, Allison had been sick for many years after that, and nobody knew why.
Right.
And it wasn't until
for a socialite from the Upper East Side.
Absolutely not, because it was really dubbed as a gay white man's disease. I mean, that was just where the media sat.
Right.
And it was her mother who, when she was around 22 and she had still been ill, had been hearing about HIV and the symptoms and really encouraged her physician to test her. And so Allison received a diagnosis of HIV and was notified that she had AIDS. And so instead of sort of curling up in a ball and not really wanting to deal with this issue, she and her family went out, and her friends, and started talking in schools about the plight of HIV in youth and in young women.
Yeah, she really used her life. And that what you have to take yourself back to the 80s for a woman like this to be out there, out front with this message and visible and like, I don't have this little thing or this, like, this is the face of AIDS.
I mean, we're really talking about a socialite from the Upper East Side. We're talking about the Gertz family. And if folks are old enough to know Gertz as in the department store, you know that this was not something that folks wanted to talk about.
But whispered thing.
Right. But Allie and her family and her friends were very bent on making sure that no one else should have to, one, be infected by HIV, and two, have to receive that diagnosis and have waited so long before knowing what she needed to do. And unfortunately, she succumbed to the virus when she was 26. But her family and friends really wanted to keep the legacy of the work going because it was so critical and families were being impacted. And so Love Heals was sort of birthed and born, and we do specific work with young people, any young people, their families and allies, so that we can really address stigma and really help our young people create a safe space for conversation.
Tell us about these murals. Tell us about what's happening this Saturday.
Oh, I'm so excited. Saturday, Halloween, from 11 to 1 p.m. at 314 St. John's Place and Underhill Avenue in Brooklyn.
Okay, St. John's and Underhill.
St. John's and Underhill, that's it. There are going to be 13 murals, 8 foot by 8 foot.
Right, we're looking at some of them now.
And we have 16 street artists and artists who have dedicated their time, their energy, and their talents to creating zodiac signs and sort of doing their interpretations so that we could really raise awareness and begin the conversation. And so folks like Jeff Beeler, who is one of the curators, and Frankie Velez have really done tremendous work and volunteering in terms of building the panels, getting Plutonium Paint to come and be a sponsor. And then sort of the icing on the cake has been that Jeff Weber, who is a fashion photographer, has been documenting the process from start to finish.
That's special.
It really, really is. And we were supposed to put the initial installation in October 10th, and hurricane, and this, and the other. So we're thinking to ourselves, oh my gosh, the artists are not going to be able to come out and do this live.
Right.
Well, you know, as life would have it, Columbus Day weekend, they all came
It was
out.
beautiful.
And
it all worked.
It all
out.
worked.
That's awesome, Deborah. Unfortunately, we're out of time. Oh, no, we've got a little more time.
So then what do you think people are going to
Yeah.
take away from the murals then? So we've gone from the bad old days and the stigma. We've gotten people tested and into treatment or given more preventative measures. Hell, there's PrEP now. There's
Right.
whole classes of drugs where you can
That's it.
sidestep it. So how do you think these things are going to impact young people to see the faces and relate with the Zodiacs?
Well, I think that what it'll do is it sends a message that there is an organization that really does care about what young people think, and that we are here to support not only them but their families
Yeah.
in helping them to learn better how to deal with young people and
Right.
talking about sex and sexuality, and their allies.
Yeah. It's such a tremendous living legacy to go from the 80s till now and like shed that stigma and like treat it as a medical condition, a preventable medical
Right.
condition or a treatable one, but we're in a different place now.
We are, and unfortunately still stigma exists.
All right. Thank you so much
Thank
for
you so
coming
much
Thank
for
today.
joining
you.
us, Deborah.
So we'll see you tomorrow on BK Live. Thanks for joining us today. Don't forget to hit us up on our YouTube channel at Brick TV. We'll see you soon.